Paula Fox, a Newbery Medal winner, one of America's most outstanding writers. The daughter of a writer, Paul Harvey Fox, and a Cuban-born screenwriter, Elsie de Sola Fox, was born on April 22, 1923 in New York City. Paula's mother, determined not to have children, already had 3 to 4 abortions but did not realize she was pregnant with Paula until it was too late. She was given up for adoption and later was rescued by Candelaria de Sola, Elsie's mother, but was passed among relatives and friends. When she was 5 months old, Reverend Elwood Corning, a minister, hearing of her presence, came by to see her. Uncle Elwood, known by Paula, was stricken by her and asked if he could take her, and was kept by him until she was 6 years old. This did not mean that her parents ignored her assistance. 5-year-old Paula's first meeting with her mother was so disastrous that she wrote in borrowed fineries. She states, "If she could have hidden the axe, she would have killed me." During the same visit, Paula was badly scratched by a cat. Her instinct was not to tell her parents. Instead, the bite played a central role in Desperate Characters and One-Eyed Cat. When she was 6 years old, her parents came to reclaim her and moved her to California, and again she was passed from friends to family. In 1931, she was 8 years old, and she went to live with her grandmother in Cuba. In another visit with Paul and Elsie in New York ended with her mother throwing a glass at her. Many years later, Paul told his daughter that she had given an ultimatum. She said, "Either she goes or I go. I had no choice." In 1939, her parents separated and she joined Paul in New Hampshire. When she was 17, she married Howard Bird and divorced him months later. Her Hollywood period ended when she gave birth to a daughter she gave for adoption. She changed her mind 10 days later, but the doctor refused to give the baby back. She was 20. The daughter Fox gave up for adoption is the mother of controversial singer Courtney Love. In 1948, her second marriage was to Richard Seiger, whom she had 2 sons, Adam, environmental consultant with 2 children, Gabriel, who has worked in zoos from Philadelphia to Madagascar. When the marriage ended 8 years later, she supported herself as a teacher at a private school. She applied to Columbia University, passing an entrance exam despite her total lack of qualifications. She states, "This is what I never forgave my father for. I went to high school for about 3 months." She attended University of Columbia for 4 years until she could no longer afford the expense and had to leave before receiving her degree. In 1962, Fox married English professor Martin Greenberg and moved to Greece for 6 months, while her husband wrote an Guggenheim Fellowship that gave Fox the support and time to write. In 1963, she taught at the University of Pennsylvania English Literature. Her first children's book is Marie's Room. Fox reveals an exceptional understanding of and sympathy for children. 8-year-old Marie struggled to protect his bedroom full of treasured junk from an unsympathetic parents, undergoes a transformation when the family moves to the country. In 1967, Paula's first novel, Poor George, gives George Meekling, a restless, outspoken teacher at a private school in Manhattan, depressed by his life of vague moral purpose. George discovers a local adolescent named Ernest breaking into his house. In 1967, A Likely Place is about a little boy who can't spell or even seem to please his parents, spends a week with a cookie babysitter, and makes a special friend. How Many Miles from Babylon in 1967. The Stone-Faced Boy is about Gus Oliver finds himself locked behind a face that did not smile or even frown as a result of the mysterious visit of his great aunt Heidi. In 1969, Portraits of Ivan. 1970, Blowfish Live in the Sea. And in 1973, Good Ethan. Ethan is not allowed to walk across the street, so when his ball rolls away, he devises a clever way to retrieve it. The Slave Dancer in 1974, in which won the Newbery Medal, is about a 13-year-old Jesse Boiler, his widowed mother, his sister living in one-room home in Port Quarter of New Orleans in 1840. His mother makes a meager wage sewing dresses, and Jesse plays his fifth to make a few pennies. He dreams of being rich someday, and although he is curious about the lives of slaves he sees, he is forbidden to visit the slave market and knows little about their daily existence. When his mother has to make a dress in a hurry, she sends Jesse out to his aunt's house to get some candles, so she could stay up late to sew. But on the way home, 2 sailors who had seen him play kidnap him. The Little Swineherd and Other Tales in 1978. A Place Apart in 1980. One-Eyed Cat in 1984, a Newbery Honor book. known as one of Fox's finest literary achievements. The Moonlight Man in 1986, Lily and the Lost Boy in 1987, The Village by the Sea in 1988, where Fox puts a main character in an unfamiliar and hostile setting. Emma, the main character, is sent to live with her uncle and her neurotic alcoholic aunt for 2 weeks when her father has heart surgery. Unable to cope with her hateful aunt and her father's health, Emma finds some solace in creating a make-believe village by the sea. 1990, The God of Nightmares, Amzad and His Brothers, 1993, Western Wind, 1993, The Eagle Kite, 1995, and ALA Notable Book for Children, a school journal Best Book of the Year, a book list editor's choice. Homosexuality and age are the issues Liam and his family must confront. Young Liam's father is dying from AIDS, and the man's immediate death and circumstances under which he contracted the disease cause the family unbearable grief. Desperate characters. The main character, Sophie, gets bitten by a cat, but from that one small unexpected act, so much fear and loathing rises to the surface. In 1970, Franklin D. Gilbert made Desperate Characters into a film starring Shirley MacLaine. Western Coast, an adult fiction book. The Widow's Children is a short, easy-to-read novel, but its brevity should not be mistaken for the lack of depth. A Servant's Tale. Luisa de la Cueva and her family leave their home on a small Caribbean island and try to start a new life in the borders of New York. 2001, Borrowed Finery, a memoir. 2005, The Coldest Winter, and Traces in 2008. Paula Fox and her husband live in New York. Some of the most recent buzz has focused on Fox's life. In 2001, prompted in part of a mugging that left her with serious cranial bleeding and a sudden intimidation of death. Paula Fox is one of the most highly regarded writers currently working in the U.S. She has earned a deserved reputation as one of America's outstanding writers for children. Her books for children and young adults are regularly cited for their intelligence, originality, and social consciousness. Her adult novels have been praised for their exquisite craftsmanship, keen observation, and uncompromising integrity.